Hello and welcome to the KCK Inspiring Moments with Kaylin radio show. I am your host, Kaylin John Louis, and when I tell y'all, it is my pleasure to be on the air with you all today. Just a friendly reminder to please take safety precautions wherever you go, whether that means physically or for your health. I encourage you to please stay safe, especially with the many sicknesses around. Just be safe around others, wear a mask if you feel comfortable, and please by all means, make sure that you are safe. And before I go any further, I do ask that you please download the Hallelujah 95.3 app so that you can listen to this radio show on the go with your family and friends. Also, make sure you tag a friend or tag a team and have them listen in because today's discussion and every other discussion is going to always be impactful. Just to get right into it, over the past few months, I discussed some crucial topics and issues in our community here in Tallahassee, specifically gang violence, homelessness, and safety in schools, to name a few. After discussing these issues and their negative effects on my fellow peers and my community, I continue to hope that we find some solutions to help eradicate change. So today I have the honor of having Mayor John Dailey here with me to discuss these and other issues. During our conversation, we'll talk about his views and solutions regarding these issues. But before we bring him in, I do want to give him an introduction. So, my guest has dedicated his professional life to building strong, vibrant communities. He began his professional career working for the Florida League of Cities, representing over 400 municipal governments before the Florida legislature and administration, and across the nation before the U.S. Congress and administration. He received his bachelor's degree in political science from Florida State University, his master's degree in public administration from FSU, and went on to receive a second master's degree in urban and regional planning from the London School of Economics. After college, he returned back to Tallahassee and founded JDA Strategies, a research and development consulting firm focused on local governance. Several positions later, and he was elected mayor of the city of Tallahassee in 2018. Again, his name is Mayor John Dailey. So I want to welcome him to the show. Welcome, Mayor Dailey.
Hey, Kaylin, thank you so much for having me. Hey, thanks for that great introduction. That was absolutely wonderful. And I
Thank you so
really
much.
appreciate your PSA about everybody stay healthy and stay safe out there. We cannot repeat that message enough. So great job.
Thank you. And I am very honored to have you on the show as well. As I mentioned, you all, he is the mayor of Tallahassee. And with so much going on, I mean, there's been so many things from the news to
Right.
everything going on in Tallahassee. I do want to go ahead and just get right into the discussion. And so I mentioned earlier that over the past few months, I talked about gun violence. I actually had a few guests to come on because that is a big issue, not just in our community, but also in the entire nation. And so we've seen, I think Tallahassee has seen its fair share of gun violence. I mean, this year there have been 77 shootings. And so, as mayor of Tallahassee and one running for reelection, what are your plans for implementing change and gun control in our city?
Well, Kaylin, that is a very important topic, and you're absolutely correct. Not only are we dealing with gun violence right here locally in our backyard, but just about every community across the United States is dealing with gun violence in one shape or another. I have always tried to be as creative as I possibly can, not just towards the issue of gun violence, but all issues. And I think first and foremost, let's look at what is working in our community. The city of Tallahassee does have some incredible programs. If you look at the Tempo program, where we aggressively go out and recruit at risk youth in our community, give them exposure, give them a paid job, help them finish their GED. And it's been a wildly successful program. If you think about it, we've had about 1,000 students that have graduated from the program. About half of them have had some type of brush with law enforcement previous to coming into the program, and we've had zero recidivism. Zero recidivism. So it's a program that works, and we have to identify the programs that work and expand what we can do. But we can't do it just by ourselves, and we're not going to police our way out of this either. We have to create very strong partnerships with the school district, partnerships with the county, partnerships with the state level and the federal government. If you look at what we're doing here locally, specifically with the creation of the Commission on the Status of Men and Boys and the hiring of Royal King, that is going to be a game changer in our in our community. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. But that's going to be a game changer. But Kaylin, also, if you think about it, I know the importance of making sure that we have properly funded programs in our community. So one of the steps as mayor that I have taken specifically is to set aside $1 million a year for the next 5 years, specifically to fund gun violence interruption programs in our community. Not only are we trying to catch youth that might go down a different path that leads to gun violence through Tempo, Future Leaders Academy, and working with our partners locally, but not only are we trying to stop the crime itself, but at the same time, we've got to have people on the ground that are truly working to stop gun violence in the moment, gun violence disruption programs. So I am prepared moving forward. We have the money set aside in the budget. We're working with all of our community programs to see exactly what's going to work. You hear my dog Lulu in the background. I'm sorry about that, Kaylin. But nonetheless, this is a serious topic. I don't mean to make light. And we're thinking creatively and we're moving forward and making sure that we properly budget to fund those programs that can have a positive impact.
So the programs, yeah, that seems very valid. And I mean, with those programs, I'm hearing that you have these programs and you mentioned connecting with local and state and federal, but I would also encourage that you connect with youth. I mean, there's a lot of us going, and there seems to be that gun violence is really prominent in my peers and a lot going on because they may be dealing with mental health issues
Correct.
or they're dealing with situations at home and they don't know how to escape and they go to a gun or they end up lashing out at their peers. And so I would suggest as well making sure that you talk to other youth that may not have a platform like I do to hear their opinions and their issues on the matter. Because a lot of that, when you start with us, I feel like there's so many people who leave out the youth in that matter. And I feel that by bridging the gap and by being able to make sure that there are people in office working with random people and normal citizens, especially youth, since we are the next generation coming up and we are the future, it's also good to make sure that you hear those issues to know how to deal with that. But those acts and plans that are an issue, I'm hoping that they help really make some successful change in our community to build this issue.
And Kaylin, you're absolutely correct. We have to work directly one-on-one with the youth of this community. We are doing that through Tempo and the Future Leaders Academy. We are doing that with the Youth Advisory Council for the Tallahassee Police Department. But it's also so important that we have those relationships with Leon County Schools. You know, last February, I took every Friday off as mayor, and I volunteered as a substitute teacher, not as a guest speaker, but as an actual teacher to be in the classroom. You probably remember they sent out the email and there was an article in the paper talking about how they needed substitute teachers. So I volunteered my time. It was an eye-opening experience and I learned a lot just by talking to the youth on the elementary school level, on the middle school level, and on the high school level. You also touched on mental health resources, especially coming out of the pandemic. And we're not out of the pandemic by any stretch of the imagination. Right. But as we move forward, I think we have learned as a community how very important mental health services are. And I am proud as the city of Tallahassee that number one, we do offer free mental health services at the neighborhood community center for anyone who walks in the door. You can go and see a licensed mental health professional up to 3 times, and we are going to help you get on the right path to other resources available. And we provide that service for free. I'm not familiar with many other cities in the state of Florida that actually do that. And that is a creative mechanism that we have come up with. We have also started the team unit, the Tallahassee Emergency Assessment Mobile Unit. So if you are in a crisis situation, you can call 911. We're not going to send law enforcement. We're going to send licensed and trained mental health professionals and a paramedic if there's a health need as well that will be supported by law enforcement. Heaven forbid anything happens and they need to be there. But they're not the primary. The primary is going to be a mental health licensed professional. We've had tremendous success. We're taking it from a pilot program to 24/7 in this budget cycle. We are moving in the right direction, but Kaylin, you are correct. There is so much that we need to do as a community, and we need to keep heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel that if all of that is put in place, I mean, being able to hear that the plans are in place, I just And of course, I continue to pray that everything that is put out there and everything that we have in our city continues to allow us to become better. Because I mean, there's a lot going on, and we can talk about so many issues, like I said earlier, from homelessness to gang violence to even dealing with things that are going on right in people's homes. And it can be very challenging to be able to figure out that answer going on. But to know that there are these plans in place. I mean, specifically, I happen to, because I like to be able to read up and see what's going on before I have
Sure.
guests. I saw where you attended the Safer Community Act celebration in Washington, D.C. First off, cool. I want to go to Washington one day as well.
Yeah. Hey, Kaylin, when the president of the United States calls and says, I want you to represent your community and be there, you're there. It was a wonderful experience, even though, and I hate to use the term celebration because again, there is so much work that needs to be done in the realm of gun safety. But this was a landmark piece of legislation that did pass, and we do need to pause and recognize that it passed and that we need to build upon that success. But the event itself, yeah, it was pretty neat. It was neat to be invited to the White House.
That's awesome. And I mean, to be invited, I mean, if you don't mind, would you be able to share with me and my audience what steps you may be taking to first tell them what the Safer Community Act is if they don't know, and then just be able to talk about how you're thinking of mirroring that possibly here in our local community?
So it's an interesting dynamic, Kaylin, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So on the national level, they were dealing with issues of universal background checks, triggering mechanisms, red flag mechanisms as part of the piece of legislation. But in the state of Florida, believe it or not, we're actually hampered of what we can do on the local level. In fact, the state legislature about a decade ago passed a law repealing every gun ordinance on the county and the municipal level in the state of Florida. We are actually prevented, believe it or not, by state law from implementing local gun control efforts. That's why it's so important that we work on the state level to try to overturn that law. And by the way, we are challenging it in the Supreme Court. And the city of Tallahassee is one of the partners of the case, along with other municipalities, to challenge the constitutionality of this law. So stay tuned. I believe that's going to be heard before the Florida Supreme Court in the next month or two. And maybe there's some good news that comes out. But all the more reason why we need to continue to work with the president and with Congress, work with the legislature to find common sense solutions to help curb the gun violence in our communities.
I like the mention of common sense solutions because there are quite a few solutions that we have sometimes that seem to be all over the place. But I feel like, as you said, being able to have these policies in place, I feel like once they're executed, we'll hopefully see more change. And I mean, I know we talked about gun violence, and that is still a prominent and a heavy issue. But
Yes,
when it
ma'am.
comes to regards towards youth, I mean, I mentioned earlier that you're up for reelection. There are a lot of peers of mine who cannot vote because we're younger and we're trying to make sure that we can understand what's going on with
Right,
our city going on and see what policies are being changed. But I wanted to share because I also like to get opinions from my other peers because I know I have my opinions, but everybody else has a voice and I like to be able to share that. And so, I mean, I talked about some saying that they may want mental health counseling, but other youth are asking for maybe opportunities for youth leadership more in Tallahassee because they want to showcase their talent. Some of them also suggest focusing on encouraging youth to follow their dreams versus settle and limit themselves to practicality. And then you have some that are saying funding programs for families and children to ensure that support systems are in place because when they are going through these times, sometimes a child may not have that one parent that can help them, or they may not have all the funds and they need that support. And then last, reducing policing and increasing social programs for youth to be a part of. I'm just want to hear when you hear that, what are some things that you think could be done to solve those issues?
Well, I just had a great idea and I need your help. Why don't we convene a youth summit at City Hall? Help me get the youth involved. I mean, Kaylin, you're a prime example of rolling up your sleeves and getting involved in the community. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I know that there are other youth members of our community that would love to get involved, but maybe they don't know how to.
Right.
You've got a great platform. Why don't we work together and put together a youth summit this fall? We could do it during the election season, or if you want to wait and keep the politics out of it, after the election season. And let's host a youth summit. I'll be more than happy to host it in City Hall. And let's spend a day together, or a half a day, or maybe a couple of hours one evening. And let's walk through all these issues. Let's just gather all the data and then plan our route from there. Maybe the appropriate route, Kaylin, is to create the Mayor's Youth Council, which is an idea. So we have a standing body that we meet regularly to get the input of the youth of this community. I think there's several opportunities that we can work together on, and I look forward to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but why don't we?
I am all for it. I think that would be it would be incredible. It would be empowering, and it would also allow other youth in the community to know that even if you're not in my position where you have a platform, or you may have a social media account where you have everybody, I think, genuinely just wants to have a voice and to know that they are heard, especially when you are not able to vote. You're, even aside from politics, though, just wanting to be able to let you know this is what's going on with us. I think that would be very incredible. We can talk about that more, but I mean,
so before COVID started, we actually launched a program. It was a youth and governance program on the city of Tallahassee level, where we did bring students from every high school, public and private, across the city of Tallahassee, studied up on civic government, municipal government, and we created a municipal government one day in the chambers, and the youth actually proposed their own local ordinances. They had debate. They passed legislation. So we started that process, and then COVID shut us down. And so it's time for the reboot. It's time for 2.0, and I'm asking for your help.
I am absolutely down. Let's reboot it. Let's get it going. I mean, I say taking action is the first step to really making change happen. And so I think put this together, have everyone out there. It'll be a powerhouse, and it'll be really just an event that people can connect with. So yeah, thank you for that opportunity to have that. And I mean,
I look forward to it.
I do as well. So we speak of all these issues. We talked about gun violence. We talked about trying to get some more things for youth, centered around youth. Now we're in school now. School year just started, right? So we have other peers like me who may be doing dual enrollment. You have some that are on campus from the elementary all the way up to the high school level. And just knowing that all this is a new start, a new change for other youth, I'm wondering, what is something you would tell other youth, or what is something that you would want other youth to hear about the school year, or just in general about being better?
Well, this is a very real conversation in the Dailey family, because I have two sons. I have an 8th grader and a 6th grader at Raw Middle School. So we just started the school year. We are getting back into our routine and getting back into our groove. And we talk about this at the breakfast table and at the dinner table before and after school. I think it's important for, number one, as you mentioned, let's be safe. Okay. We still are dealing with COVID. We're going into flu season and everything else. We need to take care of the health of this community. We need to take care and make sure that our students have a safe place to go to school. We work in conjunction with the county, and we work in conjunction with the school district. But on the most basic individual level, what I tell students all the time, including my own sons, is number one, study hard. Your education is the most important thing, hands down. And right now, your job is to make the best grades that you possibly can. If you have a solid education, I truly believe you can do anything you want to do. But you got to put in the time, you got to put in the work. Now, I also tell my sons, be yourself and be your best self, whatever that may be. Now, Kaylin, you remember middle school?
Yes, right? I do.
Yes, yeah, we do a lot of talking because my boys are growing up and they're maturing and they're finding themselves. And this is an important conversation for us to have. I also tell them to try new things, try new sports, try new clubs, try new hobbies. Just try new things. Broad exposure Excuse me, Kaylin, I apologize. Broad exposure is very important, especially kindergarten through 12th grade. Try new things, expose yourself to new things, make new friends, study hard, and let's be safe and have a great time.
Yes,
The
I
other thing,
love it.
Kaylin, if I can also too,
Yes.
I tell people, especially students, let's be kind. Let's be kind to each other. As a parent and as a citizen, I am just as concerned as you probably are, Kaylin, of social media and the pressures that are put on students nowadays. And I tell my boys to set the example and let's be kind. And also, when we have disagreements, we have to do a better job of learning how to solve our disagreements in a peaceful manner. That's very important. And if we learn that early on, that only helps us later on in life, whether that may be eighth grade, whether that's high school, whether that's after high school, and whatever you're pursuing in life. We have to, as a society, do a better job of settling disagreements, not with weapons, not violently, but in a peaceful manner.
I agree with a lot. I mean, you mentioned making sure being kind. That is definitely something that can always
Yeah.
mentioned in our in my with my peers, with my friends, because I mean, social media can be a tool, a positive tool. It can also be a negative tool that people use to hurt other people. So I feel that if more people continue to stay positive and continue to use social media to share tips or share mental resources or be able to use it as a safe haven, it will be a lot easier. So I feel that us youth and just being able to have conversations like this, Mayor Daily, where we can talk with people in positions and not only it gives me a greater sense of I know it's being done, but I know for those who are listening or other young people who may be listening right now to hear this, they're listening and they're probably thinking that they want to see this done, they want to see change, and they want to make sure that they can be confident in those who are in these positions.
Well, Kaylin, you are the prime example. Let me put you on the pedestal. You are using social media and technology in a very positive way to get incredible information out to your peers and to the general public. And I applaud you for creating your show and all the work that goes into interviewing your guests and making sure that the public is truly informed. I mean, this is the prime example of how to do it right.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that because I try. So
I know
I'm
you do.
glad to know that there are other people out there who recognize the same thing. But
We do.
I love this conversation. I love being able to talk to people to get connected. And I want to hit one more thing before we wrap it up, which is, recently I held my homeless backpack drive for my
Right.
birthday where we were able to give back to homeless people. And I mean, everyone knows when you're in Tallahassee that there are so many people you see on the road. It's an alarming rate of homelessness all around us. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the plans you have to deal with this homelessness issue in our community?
Sure. Okay. First of all, mea culpa. I was supposed to come join you, if you recall. And I had a speaking engagement that ran an hour and a half late, Kaylin, and I could not. I was sitting there and I was texting Pastor Judy the whole time saying, I'm coming, I'm coming. Hold on. And I never made it. And I do apologize. I told you I was coming out. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank
Um,
you.
I know it was a tremendous success. And I do look forward to your next one, and we'll plan accordingly so that I can be there. Homelessness is a very important issue that we need to address. There's a lot of different dynamics, and we could have talked for 30 minutes alone about the impact that COVID has had on our community and, quite frankly, across the United States on homelessness. Getting into the details of how it impacted the shelter, and when the shelter closed, it put a lot of people on the streets, and how we dealt with that. We ended up partnering with the county and making sure that people had spaces in hotels, so that they were not in the elements. So now, as the shelter has opened back up, we are redoubling our efforts specifically with street outreach, making sure that people that are on the streets and living outside know that there are resources available. And we've got great resources at the Kearney Center. We are the only facility in the state of Florida that provides free dental, free medical, and we can help you reunite with your family. We can also help you get back on your feet and help you find jobs. So we try to steer as many people as we possibly can to the Kearney Center. But Kaylin, homelessness is the first step. And when you have an emergency shelter where people are only supposed to be staying a couple of nights or a week or two that have been there for years, that also shows you a breakdown in the system. And what it boils down to is affordable housing. There's different steps in that housing chain, but we need more product in this community. We need more housing. We need to work with the Tallahassee Housing Authority to make sure that we have more Section 8 housing and good housing. That's why we're redoing the Orange Avenue apartment complex and bringing it up to 21st century standards. But we need to physically build and provide more housing in this community that people can afford. Whether you are coming from the Kearney Center and taking that first step of reentry, whether you're coming from incarceration and you need help taking that first step in reentry, whether you are a family of 4 and you're in a tough bind, we need more housing in this community. The City Commission created a strategic plan. The number one priority of that strategic plan is affordable housing. Now, we have a lot of work to do. We've gotten very creative with public policy on how to bring more housing to the table. I'm here to tell you that we have more affordable housing units currently in the pipeline to be built this year and next than we have had in the past 40 years combined. So we are moving in that direction. But Kaylin, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir. I mean, there's always work to be done. I mean, I am hoping that all those endeavors go well because while affordable housing may not affect us as much, we know that without our families having homes, that could impact us at any time. And so, hoping that all of that in Tallahassee goes well and that issue can be fixed so that when we get to that moment, we don't have that issue later down in the years. But
I agree.
I mean, you all, we've heard it here. This has been a great conversation, being able to hear the true and honest of what's going on. And basically, sitting right here, right now, bridging the gap where you have a youth talking with an elected official. I was very honored to have you on, Mayor Dailey. Thank you so much just for being willing to be a guest. It has been my honor. And I don't know if there's anything you want to shout out or for people to be able to connect with you or anything you want to announce before we get off.
Now, Kaylin, I really appreciate the opportunity. And again, I've had this tickle since we first started talking, and I've been talking all day and I can't get rid of it. You've heard my dog barking in the back because I'm at home. I mean, this has kind of been fun on my end. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on. And truth is, we could have taken any one of those topics and probably talked for hours. So I want you to know I'm available anytime you have space on your show. I would love to come back. Maybe we can dig in on one topic for 30 minutes. Maybe we can take some questions and just have a community conversation. I'm going to take you up on the offer to help me create a youth council, and I'm looking forward to it. We've made a lot of progress on this show today, and it's been a lot of fun. It is truly my honor to serve you as mayor and to serve the city of Tallahassee as mayor. I wake up every day and I know while it's a challenging job, it's the best job in the world. And Kaylin, I hope I'm making you proud. My email address is mayor@talgov.com. My cell phone is 850-766-3010. I take great pride in being very easily accessible. I think that's one thing that's great about the community. So I invite people to reach out, share their feelings, share their comments, share their ideas, and let's work to move Tallahassee forward together.
Awesome. Y'all heard it here. And I thank the mayor again for being on. Before I get off, I do say that you please make sure you connect with him and also connect with me on all of my social media platforms. To find everything, you can go to www.kaylinscaringconnection.com, where it will have everything that has to do with Inspiring Moments with Kaylin and Kaylin's Caring Connection, my organization that I started. Thank you all for tuning in today. I appreciate your support, your love. And if no one has told you today that they love you, know that I do. Have a great rest of your day.